That's how he's going to fall.
And attach is going to get the defuse. Ladies and gentlemen, your winners for the 2015 Call of Duty Championship. What a job by Denial. They hold strong, Ben.
Alrighty, what is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 3 of COD Talks. I am your host, Furs95. A lot to get to today, but to kick things off, I want to go over this week's most recent competition that was Division A Pro League. And to get things started, let's just take a quick recap at where everyone stands in this division. In first, we have Rise Nation at 10-1. With a 31-11 map count. At number 2, we have Optic Gaming with an 8-2 record and a 27-13 map count. Number 3, we have Red Reserve with a 7-3 record and a 27-13 map count. Number 4, we have Team Caliber at a 7-4 record with a 24-22 record map count. Number 5, we have Echo Fox with a 3-7 record and a 16-22 map count. Number 7, we have Era Eternity with a 3-8 record and a 16-28 map count. Number 7, we have Mind Freak with a 3-8 record and a 16-27 map count. And at the bottom, we have Team Vitality with a 1-9 record and a 8-29 map count. And it should also be noted that Rise Nation and Optic Gaming both have already qualified for the playoff. With that said, this group, what a week, man. What a week. There was a lot of great matches, a lot of fun action to tune into. I hope you guys were able to watch it. But if not, that's all right. We're all busy during the week. But with that said, first thing that jumps out to me here is obviously how well Rise Nation has been playing and how great they've looked. They're a team that's just been surprisingly dominant almost. I dare say they've been dominant since this. And they've just continued to impress the hell out of me. I mean, they've just been phenomenal. You look at this team, and it's a team that, when it first formed, I thought that, it would be a formidable team. They have a solid roster, but, right off the get-go, I wouldn't say that, they immediately, when this team formed, I thought, oh, wow, this is going to be a team that's competing for the top spot in the game. And lo and behold, they absolutely... I would say right now, if I had to make a power ranking, they'd be number 1. They've put it together, and I think that a lot of it's because of Methods, for sure. Methods has been just phenomenal so far. But also Gunless. I think Gunless seems to be much more comfortable in this roster than he has in his previous 2. I think we're starting to see the return of Infinite Warfare United Gunless, and he's been phenomenal as well. TJ Haley, you can't overlook him. He's been just an absolute surgeon in Search and Destroy. I mean, this dude is just unbelievably talented in S&D. He has been for a while now. It's where he came from. That's where his roots are, as are a lot of pros, obviously. But he's been dominant. I think he has over a 2 KD in Search and Destroy, which is just unheard of. It's just ridiculous. So just really been impressed with Rise Nation all around. And I expect them to stick around because they seem like a team that's very consistent. They seem to have that consistency factor that's all of us know is so important when we talk about winning major lands. Is you have to be consistent day in and day out. And so I'm very interested to see where this Rise Nation team can go. And then you got to touch on Optic. Optic has been largely good, right? I mean, 8-2 record. That's pretty solid. They've been. The thing with Optic is they've been really good so far in the league against the top teams. They're 2-0 against Team Caliber. Their Rise's only loss, but at the same time, obviously we saw that reverse sweep they got handed to them by Era, which was a bit discouraging. But and then again, I mean, I don't want to take anything away from Era because Era's, and I know I am an Optic fan, so I'm a little biased here, but Era's shown signs of some really solid gameplay. They're a team that's real young, obviously, with Farrow and Bevels, but they're a team that I think can sneak up on you because they have a lot of talent. There's a lot of talent there. They just have to, put it together every now and then. And they're a team that's going to do that just because they're so naturally talented. They're going to be able to take out some of the top dogs. Red Reserve as well. Red Reserve has looked really good. This is a team that, when Joe is on, they seem to be a team that, could absolutely contend for that number one spot in the world. There's just no question about it. Zero seems to be really finding his stride in this game, getting back to that Zero we saw in Infinite Warfare, who at one point was the best player in the game. There's no question about that. And, Red Reserve, I think that as of now, I would probably say they're Europeans' number one team. I mean, Splice has been inconsistent so far in their division, and Red Reserve just seems to be a little more complete right now. Interested to see what they can do here coming up in Atlanta as well. And then Team Caliber, they've been a hot topic. They've had their fair share of trash talk recently. Some of that's from Maven, some of that's from casters, some of that's from the community, this and that. I don't really look too much into it. I think that Team TK is going to be just fine, even though that they have shown signs of weakness here. This past week, Optic pretty much took him to the shed the other night, and I think they play the game so well that I don't think they're going anywhere. But I don't know. I'm interested to see what we get from TK in Atlanta, because they're still the team to beat in my mind going into Atlanta. They've won the first two LANs. Even though I probably wouldn't say that right now, if I had to make a power rank, that they'd be number one. But they're still the team to beat in my mind going into Atlanta, which is I'm going to probably touch on Atlanta a little bit more here coming up. But for now, let's just keep going with Division A, and then these bottom four teams. This division is a little unfortunate because the top four teams are just so clear, and the bottom four teams are just so clear, so we kind of already know who's going to be making the playoffs and who isn't, as opposed to Division B, where there's some still uncertainties and really important matches coming up. I know Red Reserve and TK haven't officially qualified, but I think it's going to be really tough for Echo Fox or Era to even catch up at this point. So that about does it for Division B. What I want to get into next is the Michael Condrey, Glenn Schofield news. So, those guys that didn't see it, most of you guys probably did. The heads of Sledgehammer Games, Michael Condrey and Glenn Schofield, have allegedly been promoted, air quote, promoted, into executive positions at Activision. So this is really peculiar to me. This is peculiar, this whole situation. I think that there's no way that Schofield and Condrey wanted to do this. I'm going to be honest. I might be coming off as maybe a little bit of a conspiracy theorist here, but for them to just get up and want to leave their own gaming studio, they founded and created in the first third of their most recent game's life cycle. I just don't see that. I don't believe that. I think that's not true. There's no way that there's no way that they went along with this willingly. Well, they might have been, somewhat forced to. But I think this was essentially Activision sending a message that I think what the ultimate problem here is that Activision is seeing that they're more focused on keeping the player base engaged nowadays. It's not all about just sales anymore, because as we all saw, World War II did really, really well in terms of sales. I don't know where it ranks exactly in terms of previous COD sales. I saw that it's I think it's maybe right in the middle somewhere. I checked that a few weeks ago. I can't remember exactly where it was, but it did well. But I think this game has had a lot of negative feedback. It's kind of been taken negatively by the community up to this point. I think that's pretty safe to say. And then you combine that with the Fortnite wave, the PUBG wave, all these other games, and I think that what you're seeing is that there's been a significant drop-off in people who bought the game and people who are still playing the game as of right now. And Activision basically saw that and just, didn't like what they were seeing, basically. I think something that's really, really telling about this whole situation is that, and we'll get into this in just a second, but with this most recent update that Sledgehammer released, they buffed the sprint out times. That's something that both the pub community and the casual community have been asking for a while now. And Condrey, we all remember this, or maybe some of you don't, but Condrey posted on the World War II subreddit about maybe 2-3 weeks ago. Maybe that was longer, maybe like a month ago. But he posted on the World War II subreddit and basically said that they were not going to buff the sprint times. And he gave his reasoning. And that was that, basically. We all were just like, well, that kind of sucks. But, he at least provided his reasoning for it. And we all just moved on, essentially. And the fact that virtually immediately after Condrey leaves, Sledgehammer comes out and releases a patch buffing the sprint out times, that to me indicates that there was some internal conflict between what Condrey thought was best and maybe what Activision thought was best and maybe other developers at Sledgehammer Games thought was best. It's also worth mentioning that the new head of Sledgehammer Games' name is Aaron Hallen. He's got over 20 years of experience, and he's been with Sledgehammer for a while now. So I assume he's been mentored along the way, and this has been kind of maybe a long time coming, but either way, this is an interesting one to me. I think that this absolutely was Activision unhappy with the player base and the significant drop off. We don't have the numbers. I guess they have the numbers on this. We don't have the numbers, but my theory is that the number of people who bought this game is significantly lower than the average number of people actually playing the game nowadays. And Activision wanted to make a change. They want to keep us engaged, which, if this is true, if my theory is true, this is a good sign for us, because esports is a great way to keep a player base engaged. You look at Counter-Strike, they're a perfect example of this. They have been, they consistently are able to keep their player base engaged because of how big of an esports scene Counter-Strike has. It makes people want to keep playing the game. You rotate maps. It just keeps it keeps the meta fresh. And I think that same logic hopefully can be applied to COD. I know COD, as we all know, is a casual first game, but I think that hopefully they're recognizing that, the importance of esports and the future that esports is going to set for video games. And I think it could be a positive for us. It could be a positive for us as a competitive COD community. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm interested to see if anything else comes out on this, because it's a big one. It's a big news topic. I was pretty shocked when I saw it. But we'll see. I like what I've seen so far from Sledgehammer, and that kind of gets into my next topic, which is the update that they released yesterday. And the biggest two things that this update did in regards to competitive was, as I mentioned, they buffed the sprint out times as well as the regular ADS times for submachine guns, and I think they did to a lesser extent for rifles. But so far, I got to test it a little bit last night, and it feels great. It feels really good. It doesn't quite feel Black Ops 2 dexterity level, but it's very close. And what's noticeable is that there's two different adjustments they made. There's the actual sprint out time, ADS time, that they buffed. So when you're coming straight out of sprint, that's faster. And they also buffed the regular quick draw ADS time. So if you're not coming out of sprint, that's also faster as well. And I noticed both. I mean, it's very noticeable for sure, especially for those of you who have been running subs a lot up to this point. It's very noticeable, and I think it's going to benefit the game. I think this was something that, universally everyone wanted. So I think this is a very, very good change to the game. And I think that this is really going to help out. I'm interested to see. I think this is really going to help out subs in this game, SMG players, because obviously this rewards players for their, quick reaction time, players like Scump, players like Kenny. I think that they're really going to start to find their groove here. With this most recent update. And I think the other thing to note about the update was that the MP40 got buffed. And from initial reports, I'm hoping this can compete with the PPSH, because I think that would be great if we could have, a little bit more variety in terms of SMGs. We've pretty much exclusively seen the PPSH up to this point in the meta. And I think that, I guess we need a little more time. I don't know. I haven't been able to actually use the MP40 yet, but I know that, I've seen some credible people say that it's hopefully going to rival the PPSH. So I guess we'll see. We'll see how that develops. I think gun variety is always a good thing when it comes to competitive COD, in my opinion. And the other little notable thing that they adjusted as well was they also nerfed the FG slightly again. And what the nerf was basically just a fire rate decrease. So the gun shoots just a little bit slower now. It kind of feels like it feels more so like the FG did after they nerfed it into Oblivion. It's still good. It's still good in certain situations. Still a very powerful gun, but I'm hoping this little FG nerf they did will take it back out of the gentleman's agreements. That would be ideal, because then that way I think hopefully if the FG can come back out of the gentleman's agreements, I think that would make it to where we could just go out and outright ban Duelist and M1 and the M1 Garand. And that would get rid of gentlemen's agreements for now. I think I know there's speculation that the Car 98 is part of the gentlemen's agreements, which I don't really understand. Like that gun, they they nerfed the hell out of the quickscoping aspect to it, which was really the only OP part of it. I don't understand why the Car 98 is part of the gentlemen's agreements, but I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know. I've seen a lot of Springfields out in the league this week, and I'm wondering. I don't really understand the reasoning behind that one. But regardless, I'm hoping that this little FG nerf takes it back out, and we get rid of gentlemen's agreements and just ban everything that's in the gentlemen's agreements. I think Duelist already got banned on game battles. So that's a good start, because as I said last episode, I hate gentlemen's agreements. I think they're stupid. I think that it would really help if we could just get rid of them altogether. And I think this update helps with that. So that's a good thing. Good thing, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. But with that said, my last topic that I wanted to get to today, which is a bit of an unfortunate one, bit of a bittersweet one, and that is that Courage, the COD caster, really has been the face of COD casting for 2-3 years now. He is stepping down from full-time casting, and he is going to be a full-time streamer and YouTube content creator. This is a tough one, man. I'm sad to see him go. I think that he's been a huge lover of. He's been very passionate. You can see his passion for competitive Call of Duty every time he casts. Whether you prefer his casting or you don't, you got to at least admit that the guy loves competitive Call of Duty, and he's done a ton for us as a whole. And it's a bit unfortunate to see him step down from full-time casting, but he also did note that he is not going to be completely removed from the scene. I think he still maybe will come in and cast every now and then, which is, better than nothing. I think that he's just, him and Maven have just been the face of competitive COD for a while now. And it just sucks to see all these great casters that we've lost in these last few years. But obviously we can't blame them. They're on to bigger and better things, and I obviously support them no matter what. They're these guys, not just obviously Courage and Mr. X and Puckett and all these guys that I really grew up watching and listening to. But you gotta do what you gotta do is what's best for you, and I completely understand that. And I wish Courage the best, and I hope he is able to stay around the scene, stay and continue to help us out. So, but wish Jack nothing the best, and thank you so much for everything you've done for the scene. He's really been a treat to listen to over these past few years. But with that said, guys, I think that's going to do it for today. A lot of upcoming COD action. I'm really excited. Like I touched on last week, I am going to CWL Atlanta, and I gotta say that this is the most wide open major LAN event maybe we've ever had. I mean, there is no like true favorite going into this tournament. I think that you have to. I mean, in my opinion, TK is still the team to beat because of the fact that they've won the first 2 LANs of the World War II season. But I mean, there's just the way they've looked recently. I wouldn't say that they're necessarily the favorite. I would say the favorite, if I had to choose one, would be Rise, just because of how dominant they've looked in their Pro League so far. But I don't know, man. This is I mean, there are legitimately probably 8 to 10 teams that absolutely have a legitimate shot at winning this tournament, and I don't know if we've ever been able to truly say that in competitive COD ever. So it's gonna be fun to watch. I'm really excited. The competition just keeps on getting better, and it's great for the scene. It's great for the scene. So with that said, guys, I think that's gonna do it for this week, and I will see you guys next week.